Hello, MFSN fans. We are here for Fantasy Hockey 2021 tips. I am here with our resident Canadian, Party Marty. Say hi,
Hello.
Marty.
Hello.
Yeah, say hi to the audience.
How are you, everybody?
And
Happy New Year.
all right, and we are also here with Ross the Boss.
I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk NHL hockey with you, cowboy.
I am so excited for this, guys, and I'll tell you why. So, Marty, you know, because I'm in this league with you and Ross, I have never played fantasy hockey, so I don't know what I'm doing. I know hockey from the days of like Steve Yzerman and Sergei Fedorov. I thought that I came in and I was like, the Red Wings are the best team, right? They're the worst team now. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm completely out of my element, but I'm going to learn today. And that's really what we're here to talk about is for the newcomers. There are people who've played this a lot and they can get a lot out of this too, but there are newcomers who don't know anything. I know some things I've tried to study up, but I'm going to use this time to learn. So guys, can you first tell me the first thing that I do when I'm trying to learn a fantasy sport is what's the format? So let's talk format. Ross, can you start us off on how to
I'd
think
love
about
to.
format?
So the most popular website to play fantasy hockey in is Yahoo. It's free. It's fun. It's done great. I suggest it to anybody who plays fantasy hockey. Use Yahoo. They do a great job. So basically, there's different formats. The first format is Rotisserie. I'll start with Rotisserie. Rotisserie is just like baseball, basketball. There's different categories. There's goals, assists, penalty minutes, shots, wins for goalies, saves. You got to make sure you know what categories which in Rotisserie, so you draft accordingly. The other categories are basically head-to-head. There's one head-to-head that's points, which means you get points for each category, and the total points in the week decides the winners, if you win the week or if you don't. Or the other is categories, which means there's 10, let's say there's 10 categories. You can win 7 out of the 10 categories. You win that week 7-3. And that continues to the next week you play. So there's different ways to play. You got to make sure you understand what you're joining before you play. Right, Marty?
Right. You got to make sure you got to look at their scores, their assists, their points, what team they come from, and you got to look at how they play on ice, and you got to check their goals, their assists, their point spread, their way to move on the ice too. Like I like to pick a couple players I know what I'm doing, but I like to pick all different kind of players from different teams. I don't want to pick a bunch of them on the same team, because then that doesn't really get you the points. It gets you a little bit of points, but you try to get the ones that can help you with your team too. But you can't base, like, I'm an Ottawa fan. I don't base myself picking all Ottawa players. I pick like different random teams, so different random players, so it can help me try to win my hockey pool and try to get me up higher. But yeah, the Yahoo app, the Yahoo Fantasy is the best app to do it, because the other apps I find are slow and you have to figure out what you're going to do half the time and stuff like that too. It's fun though.
Marty, the other thing you got to worry about, and Dan, is when you join a league, you got to see what positions you're drafting. So there could be 2 centers, 2 left wingers, 1 left winger, 1 right winger, a utility, 4 defensemen, 1 goalie, 3 goals. So you got to make sure you know exactly how many positional players are in your league that you're going to need to draft. Because when you draft, if you draft all centers, you're screwed. I mean, basically,
I have to break in. Ross, I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And Marty, you can answer this too. What's a center? No, I'm just kidding. I know what a center is. I wanted to see if you guys would really buy it. You guys actually looked at me like you were like, he doesn't know what a center is.
I was thinking about the answer.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, so wait a minute. You guys said there are 10 categories. Is that true across the board?
No, it varies. I mean, leagues have different rules. I mean, you being the commissioner of a league, you can set your own rules up. So like in our league, I was in charge of setting the categories up. I could have had eight categories. I could have 20 categories. So, I mean, there's categories, there's crazy categories. There's hits, there's fighting, there's penalty minutes. You can have so many different things on hockey that they count in fantasy. It's insane. There's face-offs won, face-offs lost. It doesn't stop. But the first thing you do is you look at the format of your league. That's the most important thing. And a lot of players, if you look at them when you draft them, they could be a right winger and left winger, or center and right winger. So there's multi-dimensional players that you can draft that can play both positions. Just like in basketball, there's shooting guard and small forward. Same thing with hockey. So what you got to do is you got to be smart when you draft. You just can't draft to draft players. You got to look at the position. You got to look at the categories in your league. There's a whole bunch of stuff, right, Marty?
Yes, you got to make sure you pick the right players, the right time, and then you have to check on your history. Like I do go sometimes on history, like I go on NHL books, or I go on the internet. I find out which players can help the best.
Marty, I want to jump in for a sec. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have a question that's right in line with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Explain how to draft defensemen. I don't know how to identify good defensive players. And that's something I have. In our league, there are 4 defensemen. I don't know if that's typical, but it seems like, I kind of prioritized defensemen a little bit because there were so many slots I needed to fill. How do you identify a good defensive player?
You have to just look how, like, I used to like Erik Karlsson when he was on our team. I still like him. He's a good player. You got to look at the ones that can probably win you the defenseman. I think it's called the Hart Trophy. I would always forget. I don't think it's a Hart Trophy, but you have to win. Like you have to check out who can get you the most points on the team. Mostly sometimes, but
Marty, another thing that's important is power plays. If that defenseman is on a power play, like Drew Doughty of the Kings, if he's on the power play for the Kings, that's plus. So you want to make sure if your guy, I look at defensemen as assists. Defensemen love getting assists, and assists are always a category in every hockey league. So you getting the assists from your defensemen is a big plus. Goals is just diamond in the rough. They get a goal, it's great. One of my favorite defensemen is Brent Burns. He has the beard. He plays for San Jose. He's a goon. He likes to fight. I like fighters too. I like guys that like to draw blood. I love blood, Marty. I love seeing that. Dr. Dan, what do you like?
I listen, I'm not huge on blood because I'm a therapist. So when people get hurt, I'm like, oh, are you okay? I'm not, which is one of the reasons I don't know hockey so well, But I will tell you this, if they had a category for teeth knocked out, that I would like, because that always cracks me up when you see somebody and they're just like, hi, how you doing? Actually, I don't know if you know who Larry the Cable Guy is. As a Canadian, you might not, but we interviewed him and he was missing a tooth and it was cracking me up the whole time. We should get, what is it, Ovechkin? We should get Ovechkin on this show. If you're watching, is it Alexander? Do I have that right?
Alex Ovechkin. Yes,
Alex Ovechkin. Is it Alexei?
On my screen. Yes, he's one of my favorite players. The great thing about Alex Ovechkin is this. He also loves to get penalty minutes too. If your league has penalty minutes, he's a great one. He scores a lot of goals. He's a beast when it comes to goals, but he's also like a beast with hits. He's very physical. So any league you're in that hits matter or stuff like that, Ovechkin's your guy.
Are you telling me that penalty minutes are a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
Hits, penalty minutes, that helps you in your hockey pool all the time. It has all the things you have to look on when you're doing the drafting too. So you got to get hits.
Do we have that in our league?
Yeah, we do.
Wow. Okay, guys, we have another question coming in. We're going to get one more question, and then I gotta throw it to something else in a second. When should I target a goalie in the draft? Okay, so in our draft, I actually drafted goalies first too.
Let me answer this. So this year,
go.
goalie is a weird thing this year, and you got to be careful. Each team is going to be allowed 3 goalies to travel with to be on the team this year. And that being said, doesn't mean their number 1 goalie is going to play every night. They might rotate. They might save the good goalie for the playoffs. So picking up a good goalie that is going to get some playing minutes up front is very important, because the guys that are mediocre, they might not get the start every night. But the guys that do get the guys that are the upper tier, they'll play like 90 or 80% of the time. So I suggest you pick a goalie up early, because with this COVID year, it's just going to be different. But when years go by, when this COVID's already over, then it's a whole different situation.
Yeah,
right.
I
Now-
agree with that too.
To say a bit more about that, Marty, and then I need to ask you, because I know it's cold up there in Ottawa. I'm in Cleveland. It's
Yeah.
cold here, but it's even colder up there. When did the sunset go down today? Was it like 1:30 p.m.? I'm kidding.
No,
wasn't
it goes
that bad,
down.
was
It actually went down by 4:30. No, by 5 o'clock at night because they're not doing any more time saving. So I would say we get darker now at like 5 o'clock usually.
Oh, that's nice that they got rid of that. So what are you drinking? What are you drinking to get yourself through?
I'm drinking Irish Car Bomb to have a better year this year. So, and I want everything to be better. So this is let's
okay. Will you pour me some? I'm gonna hold out my glass. Just pour it through the.
It's called Irish Car Bomb. I'll pour you some right
Try
there.
to pour it through the screen, will you? Oh, okay, fine. Don't. I keep having this problem on Zoom calls. I ask people to pour it through the screen, and instead they just break their computer. It's terrible.
Here's the Irish Car
guys.
Bomb. 1, 2.
Speaking of drinks, we are sponsored by a great drink. Oh wow, Marty's going to town on it. Here we go.
That's a man shot, Dr. Dan.
Yeah.
I love to see it. I wish I could be joining you, but it wouldn't go through the screen. So, guys, we're going to throw it to our sponsor. Here it comes from Killcliff.
Look, coming down the runway is Killcliff, the clean energy drink. It's in a brand new can. Oh, look how the colors pop. Boom, boom. Oh, beautiful tan. The front, the back. Gorgeous. Oh, and the flavor. It's still the same awesome taste. I want it in my mouth right now. Oh, so sexy. Go to killcliff.com. Oh, do it now.
Killcliff, it sounds like it's like some kind of German drink. We know it's not actually, but I love a good German accent. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Okay. And I always slip into Dracula no matter what accent I do. All right, guys. Now, I want to just go back for a sec to review the scoring system because I just found out that penalty minutes are a good thing. So this shows you how far behind I am. So tell me about the scoring system. I mean, what's worth what? Oh, hold on. We have a question coming in before we get to that. Does COVID make it difficult to play fantasy hockey? Do we know that? I don't know. What happened last year?
It might be. It might. I don't know if they had the.
So last year they were in bubbles. This year we're not doing bubbles this year.
No.
Like for example, the LA Kings are playing at home at Staples Center. They'll play away games, but they're not going to travel that far. They're playing all the West Coast teams 7 times each. So they'll go to San Jose, they'll go to Phoenix, go to Anaheim, they'll stay on the West Coast. Same with the Eastern teams. Eastern teams are doing the same thing. None of the United States teams are going to travel to Canada, and none of the Canadian teams are going to travel to the United States. So it's just like the NBA. If the players can stay safe during this season and do the right thing, we should be able to play hockey. So that's my answer to it, is just be safe. They shouldn't be around family or friends. They should just play the season. It's only 56 games. They can do it. I have a great feeling. We'll see what happens.
All right. So I want to know more about the scoring system, though.
So the scoring system, Dan, let me tell you what I did in my league. So in one of the leagues I play in, these are the scoring categories, okay? You're going to laugh. Goals, assists, plus, minus. You know what that is, right? So if you're on the ice for a goal, you get a plus. If you're if they score on you, it's minus. A power play, shots on goal, block shots, penalty minutes, face-offs. For the goalie, it's wins. Goals against, saves, and shutouts is a huge bonus. So that all being said, there's different categories for different leagues, but those are
how many? Okay, hold on. We've actually got another question coming in, and then I got to get to another question of mine. All right, this is from George Tucci.
I like that guy. He's from Canada too. He's from Montreal.
Really?
He is. Yeah.
All right,
he's a big guy over there.
The Habs have a much improved team this year. Any dark horses in your estimation? Suzuki, maybe? Marty, I'm going to throw it to you. Who do you think on the Habs, which that's the Canadians, right? Do I have that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes!
I'm gonna say they're gonna have to watch out for Corey Perry. I know he's getting older, but he could put the points up, and he used to be on my team, the Ducks. So now he's on Montreal. So just gotta watch out of him. He's gonna put the points up on the board for Montreal this year.
Marty, how did the Ducks come to be your second favorite team?
I always liked
it's
Ryan
Ottawa, right?
Getzlaf, Corey Perry. I just liked how they played. I also like the movies, the Mighty Ducks too. But I also have a painting that my mom did, but I'll do that. I'll show you guys later, but not right now. But yeah,
All right.
I just love the Ducks because I loved how Teemu Selanne played when he was on the Ducks too.
Oh, I
And
remember
he was
him.
on the Jets. Yeah, he was such a good hockey player too when he was on the Jets too.
This is so exciting. See, I had kids and, they're now 11 and 7. So I kind of blacked out for 11 years and I came to, and the Red Wings sucked. It was so weird. It was
And also
being
like
called.
Paul Correa too. Paul Correa was on the Ducks too.
Oh, I remember that too. Okay. So I wanted to get back to the question I was going to ask though. Ross, you were mentioning that there's some goalie stats. Do the goalie stats make up usually like half? Like in baseball, you have pitchers and hitters, and it's usually half and half in the stats. It sounds to me like what you're saying is goalies like 3 out of 10, maybe.
I would say 35 to 40%, right, Marty? I mean, usually goalie stats are about 35, 40. There's some good stats, and you shouldn't take it for granted either. It can win you, break you a season. It's important. It's important to have a stud goalie.
I think
And it's
Matt
based on
Murray's
points,
been having a great year this year.
Well, I mean, again, if you're in a point league also, I mean, shutouts is a huge, it's huge for goalies and shutouts. You should definitely check out what goalies last year had a lot of shutouts. That will help you this year. You should do your research. You should do your research on goalies because, for example, Ben Bishop, who plays for the Dallas Stars, he's out until March. So he's going to miss more than 3/4 of the season. Should you draft him? No. You should stay away from injured players, Marty. Yeah. Correct? So you have to do research on the guys you draft before you draft them because it can make or break your season.
Yeah. Taylor St. Gain's hurt too.
What's that?
Taylor St. Gain on Dallas. He's hurt too with hip injury. You don't want to pick him up.
St. Gain's out for like 2 months.
Yeah.
You know what? I did just pick him up and put him on my injured list. So you're telling me this is a bad idea?
No, if he's on your injured list, you're fine. Like you said, it's just a spot. You're not going to, it won't hurt you. Injured lists are all good. Make sure you have an injured list. If injured list, you can pick up Ben Bishop and put him on your injured list. It's not going to hurt your team at all.
All right, good. I thought it was a great thing. I was like, well, I can just stash somebody on my injured list right now. If my team gets injured enough, I can always cut him. But as the season goes forward, maybe he could become valuable. We have another question coming in. How is fantasy hockey different than the other fantasy sports? Now, I don't know, Marty, I don't know if you play the other fantasy sports. You said you're a football fan. Do you play fantasy football?
Not really. I just do the football NFL pools like on ProLine, but I don't do like NFL pools. No.
So let me
do fantasy hockey.
Let's
throw it to Ross.
So fantasy hockey, I have to compare it more to fantasy basketball. It's every day. Fantasy football, fantasy football is usually on Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe a gamer there on Saturday. Who knows? But fantasy hockey's every day. So you're looking at your lineup. You're going to rearrange your lineup. So you're starting the guys that are playing that night. You want to get as many starts as you can for your players. So I compare it to basketball more than any other fantasy sport on Yahoo. So you just got to make sure you look at your lineup every night because you don't want to miss starts because you're not paying attention to it. So it's a very important thing to check out your waiver wire, but also just to start the players that day or even go to the next day, just in case if you forget, you're already ahead of the curve. So I compare it to basketball, right, Marty?
Yeah. The sucky part is you got to watch out when it comes down to the last games. You have to make sure your players are playing, but on the last games, there's all the players playing at once, and you have to sit the players that are so you have to sit some of the players that are playing, and you want to make sure the players who are not sit the ones you want more points of, you probably have to play them in your line instead of benching them because some of the all teams might play on one night, and you want to pick the best roster list you want to play with that night because sometimes they're all playing at once. So that happens to me all the time. I have to play my players all the time, and it's crazy like that. And I'm like, oh, who do I pick? And I choose at the last moment because sometimes I miss the opportunity and then I dress the wrong player and the player didn't get me any points that night. And I'm like, oh, great. So,
all right.
But, yeah.
I wanted to jump in for a sec because we're getting another, it's not even a question. It's more of a correction. Also from George Tucci. He says Boston Bill. I don't know who Boston Bill is.
Boston
Maybe Ross
Bill is
would
this
know who it
crazy nut that lives in Montreal that loves all these Boston teams. He's a complete, he's
So
a
he
complete
says he wants
crazy man.
Boston Bill wants me to correct the panel. Canadian teams are not traveling to the USA. They will be playing in Canada. I thought that's what we said.
I did say that. Tell Boston Bill to get a Q-tip and clean the ears right now, because that's what Ross the Boss said. He has no idea what's going on. He's living in a dream world. Tell him to stop drinking, get some Q-tips, and clean your ears.
All right, Marty. I think you need to have another drink on Boston Bill, because
Boston Bill, this one's for you, Boston Bill.
Okay, so
all right, there we go. Jesus, I'm worried about you. If you drink too much, I'm going to start going into therapy mode.
Who, me?
All right, let's. Yeah. Listen, as
Boston
a therapist,
Bill,
I shouldn't be promoting
Boston
it too
Bill,
much,
this
but
one's for
I
you.
also. Yeah, there you go. Take that, Boston Bill. We said there was no traveling. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, guys. So Ross, you started to talk about researching, and I assume, I mean, in the other sports, I do mock drafts. I didn't actually do a mock draft, and I probably should have, but we were kind of pressed for time in this one, and I just dove in the deep end. But do you use mock drafts a lot?
To be honest with you, I did, because I do research. I see the new signings. I know Marty does this too. You see what team signed who. There's always a lot of shuffling going on in the NHL every year, so you got to stay on top of that. You got to look at draft picks. If these draft picks are going to actually play in the NHL this year, some of them don't. Some play minor league hockey, but some of the top picks, like last year, the top pick Quinn, he actually did play. He didn't play that great, but I think he'll bounce back this year. We'll see what happens. And also trends too. So you got to look at trends. But mock drafts, I suggest to anybody playing any fantasy hockey, expert, a newbie, doesn't matter. You should definitely do mock drafts. They offer it on Yahoo. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It takes about 30 minutes to do. It's actually kind of fun. And you just draft a mock team, and it's easy.
I was going to say, I don't know fantasy hockey, but I know fantasy sports very well. I've played basketball, I played football, I played baseball, and I've played it extensively. So one thing I do understand is you have to understand what the value of the players is in the minds of the other managers that are drafting. So if you do enough mock drafts, you're going to see, okay, people are overvaluing this player. People are letting this player fall deep. I'm going to be able to get this guy later. So I do think mock drafts is a great way to do it. What else do you guys do for research? Marty, what do you do for your research when it's time?
I watch
them.
How much
actually,
Go ahead. I actually watch them on TV and see how they play. And then I also search them by like the roster. I check on the roster and I check on the website, like who can help me the most. That's how I check my players. And I did pick up a couple good goalies this year, because I think Matt Murray's going to have a great year. If he's watching this, he's going to have a great year playing for Ottawa. I know I'm Ottawa if I'm not, rubbing it in, but I think Matt Murray's going to have a great year. Watch out for him and watch out for Brendan Hoppe on Vancouver.
So are you saying that you watch the preseason games? That's how you determine?
Sometimes I watch preseason games. Yeah, they're fun to watch too. It shows like which players are coming up on the roster, which players are going to play. They're going to see which ones make the cut, which ones make the roster opening night, and that's why I watch preseason games. I try to watch preseason games if they have it on TV, or I just go back on the internet and watch the preseason games too and the scores.
Got it. And Ross, what's your secret? What do you do other than mock drafts to prepare?
So I do mock drafts coming close to the season. I'll watch NHL. I'll watch NHL Network. I get that here in my house. Another thing is just to read about players on the internet. I mean, when you join Yahoo and you're in a hockey league, you can look up each player individually, and a lot of them have a news thing next to their name, and you can press that button, and that will tell you, like, is the player hurt? Is he on the first line? Is he on the second line? That is he in the power play? It's a great information Yahoo gives you, and you should take advantage of that, because they really are they go way out of their way to make sure you're informed of what's going on with each team and which player. And the other thing is, when you get this information, you should actually do like an order of draft. You can do that on Yahoo, where you can set the order of each player where they should be, just in case, let's say you missed the draft, your internet goes out, you can't draft.
Great idea.
At least you have a backup system, which you have an order in which you love that's ready to go, just in case if you forget or your internet goes down during the draft.
Great tip. We have another question coming in from Lauren. Is punting a viable strategy in fantasy hockey? Now, for those of you who are new, what punting means is you basically give up in a category to be stronger in other categories. So, fantasy basketball is going on. Maybe you have very weak free throw shooting and you just give up on that and you bring in players who are great other than that. In hockey, I don't know exactly what that would look like. Are there categories that are worth punting? How does that go?
I mean, Marty, the only one I would suggest is maybe penalty minutes. Maybe if you just want to go offense and not worry about getting penalties and picking up that goon that won't score, won't get assists for you. But I don't really suggest it. I think with hockey, you can try to get players that do everything. Like there's a guy that plays for the Capitals named Tom Wilson. He's a forward. He scores, but he also loves to fight. I mean, this guy makes me look like a calm guy. This guy is very angry when he plays and he loves to hit. He fights, he gets suspended, which is great, but he scores. So a guy like Tom Wilson is a good guy to pick up, but I don't suggest punting at all. I say you go for it all, Lauren.
Yeah.
Be a winner like Ross the Boss.
I want to throw it to the audience for a second. They often have great comments. Put it in the comments below, whatever we're missing. But one question I want to get to, and we'll get to it. George has another question, so we're going to come back to him, and it's about Boston Bill, Ross. So just hold on to your hat.
I'll have Marty answer it. I get too
Marty,
emotional.
you hold on to Ross's hat.
Okay.
So guys, if you're watching and you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We love having you tune in. We love your questions. Please put your comments in the comments. That's where they belong. Here we have one. George is saying, Boston Bill wants me to pick Erik Karlsson as my number one choice. What is the panel's number one choice? Marty, we're going to go to you first. If you had the number one pick, who would it be?
For defense?
I think it's just overall pick.
I think it's overall. I mean, that sounds like what Boston Bill's asking, and he's insane from what I hear.
Yeah. People do go for Connor McDavid, but you know what? I like to give more credit. Like, he doesn't get no credit, really. I would go with Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon is a great player, and he doesn't get shown how he plays on Colorado, and I think it's going to be Nathan MacKinnon I pick to bring out, the number one draft. Like, a lot of people pick Connor McDavid because he's like a superstar, but Nathan MacKinnon is a great guy, and he's a great person, so he's a great hockey player, too.
All right. Does being a great person matter in fantasy hockey? Maybe it does. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like fighting is a good thing. So
it is a good thing. My pick is McDavid. He's the right age. He's a stud. I'll take McDavid as the number one pick in any hockey league, but McKinnon's a good number two.
Yeah. Okay. So who is Erik Karlsson? I mean, that's how much I need to be. I mean, was that a joke or was that serious? Would you ever pick him number one?
For the Sens.
I see. So, okay, where would he go in a draft, Marty?
Actually, the funny thing is I picked him all in my draft, so he'd probably go top 10 or top whatever, but I picked him as a defense.
Okay, so he's a top player.
He's a top player, but he's definitely not the number one pick. I mean,
he's not a number one pick.
Marty should do another drink because of Boston Bill.
Yeah, Boston Bill. This one's for two.
Every time Boston Bill comes up. All right. Now, I wanted to ask, it's now starting to make sense to me why penalty minutes really is included, because when you think about it, fantasy sports is always trying to approximate the game, and there is value. There's value to goons, right? These teams need the goons. So how do you recognize, aside from just seeing them fighting all the time, how do you recognize who is the goon? Is it usually a defenseman? Could it be their center? It doesn't matter what position, or how do you find
There's some players. Ryan Reeves, Lucic.
Reeves is a big goon. Vegas. I mean, there's goons. What you do is when you're on Yahoo, they have a thing called PIM, and you'll press that on top, and you'll see all the top goons in the league. It just gives you an order of all the penalty minutes and who had the most last year and who had the least. So you can use that feature. It's very easy to do. You can same with goals. You can do it with every player in every category. It gives you that luxury on Yahoo, which is great. But you can just look it up. I mean, it's hard doing research. Marty and I spend hours and hours a day on research on hockey.
Yeah. Ty Domi was a
very
goon
enlightening.
back then too.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's very enlightening because I now need to go back and look at my team and see how I am in penalty minutes. I might not have valued that enough. What I did was I drafted based on points, and that's great, but maybe I'm out of balance then. I don't know.
Yeah, but the great thing,
so,
Dan, I'll say it now, is that even though, let's say you didn't have a great draft, you missed a couple categories, you were drinking, you weren't paying attention, whatever was going on, there's the waiver wire. And the beautiful thing about the waiver wire is this: you can go back to the waiver wire and get those categories that you need to make better, because the league you're in, it's only 10 people. So there's a plethora of players in there that you can pick up. And there's gonna be a lot of players that weren't drafted that are going to be studs this year. And me and Marty and I try to stay ahead of the curve. So hopefully you can be ahead of us. We'll see what happens. Good luck.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. We have another question coming in. Who are some sleepers and busts for the season? Let's just name a couple. Marty, name a sleeper, name a bust.
Okay, name a bust. I'll name a bust first. Probably Joe Thornton, but
sounds like there was something personal in that.
No.
Joe Thornton. So Joe Thornton's been in the league for 20 something years, right, Marty? He's a total goon. Every team hates him. He's played in San Jose, he's played in Dallas, he's played all over, but he's not liked when he comes to all these different arenas. He's not a clean player. He's dirty, and I'm not a big fan either. But
I'm gonna miss
I thought I remembered him.
Yeah.
What's
I'm gonna
that?
miss this guy in Ottawa, but I'm gonna say Bobby Ryan from Detroit Red Wings. You gotta watch out of him. He'll be a sleeper for Detroit Red Wings.
I like Bobby too. Play for the Ducks. I like Bobby a lot.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Watch out for him and treat him right, Detroit, because I want him back. If you don't want him, I want him back on my team.
Marty, we have somebody who's writing in. Justicar66 says, "Hello, Marty." I guess he's a friend of yours. Just checking in.
Oh, tell him to say hi. Tell him I got an Irish car bomb for him if he wants.
Oh boy!
Do another one.
My God, here we go. How many of those have you done? My God, it's terrifying.
Okay, Dan. What should we talk? Let's keep going.
Well, so I had another question, and it's about how to value goalies. So I had this in the draft. I didn't know how many goalies to draft. I know you need at least two.
So this year, as I said earlier, each team's going to be allowed 3 goalies to travel with and to be on the team during the season, which is usually they just get 2. This year there's 3. So that all being said, a lot of teams are going to rotate their goalies. A lot of the big time goalies may rest and not play to the playoffs. Maybe, you never know. But I think there's like 3 or 4 goalies that are going to play a lot, and you got to be quick and grab those goalies quickly, because that's gold in the league, because it's going to be hard to figure out what goalie is going to play. And certain leagues, you got to start at least three times. You got to start a goalie 3 times in 1 week. So if you don't get any points in some category leagues. Sometimes that happens.
Wait, so does that mean that the same goalie needs to start 3 times, or you need to get
somebody on your roster, somebody on your roster has to start at least 3 times during that week. That's in the goalie category.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is it worth it, Marty, is it worth it for me to keep 3 goalies on a team where there's, 2 goalie slots? Should I have a third goalie or no?
I think, you have to keep it if you want to keep it. And if it's not benching the goalie and they're both playing on that night, it helps you get more points that way too. If they get a shutout, you get 5 points each shutout. So you might get 10 points a night if 2 goalies are allowed to play, because I only pick up 2 goalies. I know I should pick up a third goalie, but I didn't know about, I always forget about the benching and then both of them playing, but I think it's smart to have 3 goalies actually. So I might go back and do a little dropping in our draft there and pick up another goalie.
Not right now. I'm going right now, and I'm going to pick up all the goalies, Marty. You're not getting anybody. But
that's right.
Listen,
hold on. I'm gonna get my phone and do this right now.
So
Marty,
with the draft, you do got to watch out during the draft. If you're in a draft, you got to make sure that if there's a run on goalies, you got to be one of those guys that pick up a goalie, because you don't want to be left behind. It's really important to pick up like a top tier goalie, at least one top tier goalie. So if there's a run during the draft, you get that. You go in, you go for it. You go for the goalie. You stay. It's a risk you got to take, but you got to do it.
A damn big shout out to the Florida Panthers they had the American goalie and they had the Canadian goalie, and they drafted both of those goalies, so they're going to have a future in their system this year or next year, whatever.
I mean, it's funny, when I was last watching, Doug Thornton was still in the league, so that shows you how old he is, because that was before I blacked out. Okay, wait, Marty, that's 4 Irish car bombs. Are you okay? That's the question that's coming in right now.
Oh, I'm good.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, he's just getting started.
I think. I mean, he might be better than ever in a way.
He's Canadian. He's good. Let's keep going.
All right. So I did want to say to our audience watching again, please click subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Put your comments below. We really want to hear from you on what it is that that we're missing. We just had a conversation about goalies. Maybe there's an insight you have. We need to hear from you. Yeah. I wanted to ask a question about line mates. Like, is it bad to stock line mates from one team? Like in football, like they call it a stack when you've got a quarterback and a wide receiver.
Yeah. So
what's it like in hockey, Ross?
So for me, I like stacking first lines. Like, I'll give you an example. Like in Boston, they have like an unbelievable first line. They have Pasternak, Merced, and they have Bergeron all in the same line. And that's like a superstar line. So if you get 2 of those guys and they start scoring, you get the plus minus, you get the assists, you get the goals. So that all being said, I love getting guys that are on the same line together on the same team, especially if they're really, really, really playing well. So for me, I think it's a plus to get players that are on the same team.
Marty, is this something that you do also?
Yeah, I actually did it tonight. Actually, I picked up 3 Calgary Flame players. I picked up Matthew Tkachuk, I picked up Johnny Hockey, and I picked up Sean Monahan. And I do like the point system if they're on the same line, but I don't know if they're going to be on the same line, like all 3 of them. But I do like the point because you get assists, you get a goal, you get all the points. So last year I did pick them before, so I think this year Calgary's going to have a good year. So I did pick all the good. I picked, like, I want points with the same lines too. I think Ross has a point right there too. I think it's great to have a few players. Like, you don't pick a lot of players from the Calgary, but or whatever team you're choosing. But yeah, three if they're on the same line. If they're on the same line.
Did you say one of them was named Johnny Hockey? Did I hear that correctly? Is that his nickname?
That's his nickname. That's his nickname, Johnny Couture. Johnny. Sometimes I don't know how to say his whole name, but they say Johnny Hockey for his
Johnny Couture. He's unbelievable too.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
I wish I got him.
Okay, we have a question from the audience. This is for you, Ross. Are you wearing 2 pairs of glasses?
I am, because for hockey I have to pronounce certain names. Right here are my notes.
Yep. We've got our note cards for MFS.
And I have my note cards, and
here it is.
So because I have to read, I need to wear my reading glasses. So I am wearing 2 pairs of glasses. Dr. Casey Scheinfeld.
That's quite a prescription you have going. All right. So one thing that I know is something we need to do in fantasy sports is you got to know your bias, and that could be in relating to the team you're rooting for, or maybe the strategy that you have. How much does bias come into play?
Bias in hockey, especially Canadians who are Canadian fans, aka Party Marty, they love their teams. I mean, and they hate their other teams that they play. Marty doesn't like Toronto. Marty doesn't like the Canadians. Let's not lie. You don't like the Canadians.
Wow.
But I like Corey Perry.
Okay, you like Corey Perry, but overall you don't like them. So when I draft a team, all my biases go out the window. I could care less where they play. I don't care. I mean, I'm a Kings fan. I like the Ducks a lot. But that all being said, I don't draft because where they play. I draft to win. And you got to remember that. I know Marty loves drafting his Ottawa Senators. I know that. And if I get an Ottawa Senator, I'll hold it over his head like this, and I'll say, I got one of your guys for you. But hockey fans are the most loyal fans of any sport, and they won't draft a certain player because he plays on a certain team. Marty?
Yeah, I draft like some different players, but yeah, sometimes I don't draft like I don't really draft Toronto players. I don't draft. Actually, I did draft Corey Perry, as I spoke.
Because you're in love with them, obviously. But we know. Go, yeah. I mean, come on.
I'm not in love with him. I just like how he plays hockey. No, we were supposed to get him for Ottawa, but we got screwed because our owner wouldn't sign him.
I'm kind of surprised by this, though. I thought there would be like Canadian solidarity, because there's not as many teams in Canada. I thought you guys would be like, and I being from Cleveland and liking the underdog, I always like the Canadian teams, especially with some teams.
I don't mind them.
Been
I
robbed.
just don't like them.
I mean, like the Nordiques. The Nordiques should be there. It bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that bothers you.
But we all hate Winnipeg. We all hate Winnipeg. We all hate Toronto. We can't stand Montreal. Marty and I know what teams we don't like. Come on.
I love Edmonton and I like Calgary.
We like Edmonton, obviously. We like Vancouver.
What's the basis of this?
It's just the player, like the fighting going on in the stadium. Do you ever watch the fighting going in the stadium? They go crazy.
Oh, yeah, no, look, I guess
I'm surprised they don't burn the referees down or anything because the fans go nuts in Toronto. You lose a game, it's like, oh my God, we didn't win the Stanley Cup. But, seriously. It's like
it sounds a little bit like Boston fans.
Trust me. Yeah,
Boston Bill. Can you imagine that guy drinking at a game? Ooh.
Oh my God.
Not good.
Not good. And he's already insane from the start, from what I hear. All right. So, how much do you watch out for injuries? Like if somebody gets injured, and let's say they're out 3 weeks, how damaging is that to their value?
Oh, you drop the player right away if you want to get a new one.
Well, the first thing is
right?
if your league has an injury category, we can put players under injury and save them. That's great. If you don't, because it's only 56 games this year, it's a very short season. So every game counts. You can't wait a month for a player to come back. I would probably drop that player. Unless it's like one of the top first round or second round guys I drafted, maybe I'll hold on to him. But you gotta keep up with this being said, you gotta keep up with each player you have on your team and make sure they're not hurt. Hockey players and basketball players and baseball and football is totally different. Hockey players go down all the time. I mean, the injury is so common, especially bruised ribs or something minor, but they're out for a couple games. You got to keep track of that, right, Marty?
Yeah, I know.
Well, actually, Marty, before you answer, we have another question coming in. So hold that thought. Anthony is asking, how often will you guys be talking fantasy hockey? Marty, you don't know the answer to that. So I'm not going to throw it to you because we haven't discussed that yet. But Ross, you may know the answer, but I'm not going to put you on the spot because maybe you don't either. We're going to be here once a month, at least to start. We'll see if this gets really popular and everybody wants more of it. Maybe we'll bring more. But right now, we're going once a month. Now, Marty,
once a month, and Marty and I can talk about players more. We can tell you who to pick up, what to do, what teams we like, what's trending, what's going on with fantasy hockey, how to be ready for your playoffs. Marty and I are experts on this, and we love to talk about it later in the season, of course.
Yeah, we could talk about it all day.
This was about learning the game itself. I needed to get up to speed because next time I come back, I'm going to come back with a vengeance. I'm going to have a stacked line. I've got my 3 goalies lined up. I'll have.
Well, I can trade you some bullies if you want on my team. If you want.
Oh, I might need some. I don't know. I have to check.
I'll trade you up. I'll trade you a good trade.
All right. So one of the main strategies in fantasy sports that you've got to be aware of is understanding risk. Now, I assume that comes in multiple forms in hockey, just like it does in any other sport. What do you consider to be the risks when you're drafting somebody? Here's a good example. Rookies in basketball usually don't provide a ton of value. I just picked up one of the key rookies in NHL in the NHL. I don't even remember his name. I'll have to check it. I'll check in a second. But I just picked him up. Yeah. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if that's a lot of risk or if that's a lot of upside. How do you guys think about risk? Ross, you start us off.
So risk. I mean, in the first couple rounds, you're not going to have much risk. You kind of know. The tendencies, who you're going to pick, Patrick Kane, you're going to pick up, or McKinnon, doesn't matter. You'll get a top tier player in the first couple rounds. The later rounds is where you go after your sleeper picks or some of the more riskier picks. So one of the tools I love to use is the ADP, and that stands for average draft position. And Yahoo will tell you that, like where your player was where he was averagely drafted out of out of all the drafts that they've had so far, this is where your player was drafted. And that's a great tool, because that will tell you basically a consensus, like how good your player is and what kind of expectations you can see from them. So with risk, I would just make sure that your player is healthy. That's the number one thing. Make sure he's playing, make sure he's not Ben Bishop and not sitting for the first 2 months. And the second thing is to make sure he's on a team that you feel is going to be scoring a lot. Also, there's teams that are going to be bad this year. Detroit's a great example.
I just want to clarify though, if a player's injured going into the draft and they're going to be out 2 months, does Yahoo? I assume Yahoo would address that the ADP.
There would be there'll be a red cross next to his name, like a first aid cross next to his name, and you press that, and when you press that, that will tell you his injury, how long he's out for, and the extent of it. Again, if it's a 2 week, if a 2 week injury, and if it's a top tier player, it's worth drafting. It's 2 weeks, no big deal. But if it's 3 months and the season's almost over when the guy gets healthy and he's just sitting around until the playoffs start, it's not a good draft.
Here's another tip. And if you're seeing a player, let's say, scored 660 points last year and they're ranked like 330, something's up. That guy should be ranked in the top 5. Okay, we've got another question coming in from George. Montreal's Carey Price and Jake Allen might be the best goalie tandem this year. Let's have some commentary on that.
Marty, you take this one. That's the funniest line I've ever heard in my life.
Okay,
isn't it great how deadpan I could do it? Because I had no idea.
There's a couple of good teams that have probably better goalies out there.
Couple? Try 20.
Try a lot. Like you got freaking you got
Boston
Murray
with Rask. You got Helsack and Rask. I mean, you got a million teams.
Matt Murray's going to have a better year this year. Hope he's going to have an amazing year because Vancouver is going to have a great year because they got great talent, young players. I think the backup goalie is great too. So yeah, Pittsburgh is going to have a great goalie. Yeah, a bunch of teams. I don't think Montreal is going to have that great of a team. Well, they have great players, but the best goalies, I don't know.
All right, let me ask you about the teams that are my favorites, because Cleveland doesn't have a team, and Columbus came in after I was already at college, so I never really got attached to them. I am a Calgary Flames fan and a Buffalo Sabres fan because I like pain. In my sports,
Buffalo's going to be good this year. Buffalo's going to be good. Buffalo's going to be good.
Okay, so but how about the Flames? Do they have a good goalie situation? Because I have their number one goalie.
Yeah, they picked up the Vancouver
marksman,
goalie.
Right? Yeah,
they picked up a Vancouver goalie.
They're
okay. They're not a top tier team in Canada.
No.
I like Vancouver a lot. I like Toronto, and I also like the Senators this year. But
yeah, Matt Murray's going to have a great year, I think.
We like Matt Murray, ex-Pittsburgh Penguin. We know who he is. But again, Calgary, no, they're not that great. Sorry, Dr. Dan.
No, so maybe I need to cut that other goalie. We're going to have to talk after this. Okay, the rookie that I picked up is Kirill Kaprizov. Is this a good pickup?
Yeah, who? I guess so.
No, you said who?
The thing with rookies that's different from the NBA is this. This is what you got to know about NHL compared to NBA. And NFL, rookies don't always play. I mean, they might be playing in the minors for a year. They might have to develop.
That's true.
It's not the same thing. Like if a rookie's drafted in the first round in the NBA, they usually are on the team. NHL, it's totally different. Some guys are not physically ready to play. Some guys they want to develop. They don't want them to get hurt. It's very physical playing the NHL compared to other leagues. So that all being said, you got to make sure he makes the roster first before you get these rookies.
All right, so I'm going to check the roster and see if he makes it. Yeah. Before we're going to wrap up shortly, but I wanted to give the audience a chance to ask any last questions, any final questions they may have for us. But if you didn't get your questions in this time, you can comment below. We'll answer your questions later. While we're waiting for that, another thing I know about fantasy sports in general that I'm probably going to apply to hockey is that the work does not end once the draft is over. You do not want to just rest on your laurels if you think you had a good draft. Now, I don't know exactly how I did, but let's say Ross the Boss thinks he had the greatest draft. He knows, because he's a good fantasy player, that you have to keep working to develop your team. How important are trades in that regard in hockey leagues?
So trades in hockey happen in my leagues. They happen a lot. It's fun. I like bringing different players into my team. I think managers of hockey teams are a lot more liberal with trades because, you know, it's for fun, but also I feel like people think their players will peak at a different time. So then what they want to pick up that player. But again, to answer your question before, it's like, if you're not even happy with your draft, if you think you drafted awful, doesn't mean anything. You got some good players because you drafted in the first few rounds. Those players will stick. They'll be good. I've had teams in hockey where I drafted and half my team was gone by the third week just because I wanted to pick up players that have great runs. So you got to be active on the waiver wire every day. Go on that waiver wire. Party Marty's going to make a mistake. And when he makes that mistake, Ross the Boss will come in, take that player from him and put him on my roster because I'm Ross the Boss, and that's how I win leagues.
Hey, I might make you some trades.
Well, listen, don't trade while drinking. That's one thing that I wanted to say. A little tip for you all out there.
Yeah.
You know, I've played with people who they weren't even drinking and they're like, why did I offer that trade? Our good friend Casey once traded Bryce Harper away thinking that he was offering it was somebody much lesser. Let me just say that. I think it was, I can't even remember. And now we're getting into baseball. So listen, it's been great talking hockey with you guys. Marty, if you do want to get one last drink in there, I don't know. What I would recommend is if you're going to do it, this is it. You're cut off for the night after this, according to Dr.
My day is
Dan
off tomorrow. I can keep on going. I can go back to the
All right,
beer
listen,
store,
you're a grown man. You do what you want. All right.
This is for you guys for bringing me on. I love it. So here you go. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on, Marty. And
thank you.
I can't believe you're going to keep going after this. We will call the hospital to make sure you're there.
Don't worry. I don't
All
need
right,
no.
well,
I have the day off tomorrow.
Yeah, and you probably have a high tolerance from what I'm guessing. So listen, guys, it was a blast talking fantasy hockey with you.
Thank you so much.
For our viewers, please click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, put your comments below. We want to hear from you. We're going to be doing this once a month. If we get a great response, we can do it more. So you guys let us know how much you want this. Thanks again for watching MFSN. Thanks for joining us, Party Marty, and thank you, Ross the Boss.
Happy New Year, guys.
We're gonna set the internet on with Killer Clean Energy.